Hey, what's up, guys? This is Church of Caboose, and this is going to be the episode 3-4. So, you're new to Destiny, and this is going to be all about weapons. If you're new to this channel, this particular series comes from clan members, usually newer players, but it doesn't have to be, asking questions like, for one of them was, hey, I know nothing about armor. Why does armor stats matter? And this weapon video is all about weapons. We're going to try to talk some about what kind of weapons should you have, when, where do you get them. I'm going to try to give you guys a couple of internet resources as well for checking things. And this video really is going to be kind of guided towards more of the casual try-hard, like the casual try-hard, right? Like someone that loves doing raids or wants to do raids, enjoys PvP, whatever activity it is, but perhaps doesn't necessarily know a ton about perks or where to like find these different options inside of the game / internet. So that's going to be this video. If you do enjoy the video, make sure you click that like button. I also am using a capture card. I have one now, so I would love to know down below if you guys feel the gameplay in the background is significantly better. Never mind me dying all the time inside of Iron Banner. I just also felt with Iron Banner being one of the sources of weapons and armor, pretty good week to put this video out for you guys. So now that we've established that you should subscribe to my channel, like the video, and that this is going to be all about weapons, let's go ahead and kick this off by talking about PvE options and what you should do. So when it comes to player versus environment, or PvE, weapon loadouts, things tend to have a little bit different of a take. We're going to try to focus more on the exotic side of things because they tend to be higher, more focused inside of quests as opposed to RNG, although there are exotics with RNG. So we're going to be talking about exotics that you can for sure get and how to get them that are absolute must-haves for your arsenal. Like there's every once in a while when I hop in with a group and I'll ask someone if they have something and they say no. To be honest, I'm a little bit mind blown because I'll be like, how in the world could you not have this weapon? It's like a well-known, you must have this. So for the list was gonna go, we need to have Xenophage, Divinity, and Anarchy. Those right now, especially for Deepstone Crypt, are going to be 3 of the most needed weapons along with Lament. I can't believe I left Lament. So those are the 4. The 4, Lament, Anarchy, Xenophage, and Divinity. To get Lament, it is a quest that you get from Banshee. It was unlocked after the world's first team completed the Deepstone Crypt on November 21st. This thing is a must-have really for any PvE activity. It shreds bosses, and if the whole fire team is using them, almost anything becomes incredibly easy to blow through. If you have Anarchy, it is something you get from the little vendor, the legacy individual station deal in the tower near the vault. You can use Spoils of Conquest. I think you need some shards and things like that to acquire Anarchy, but originally it was from a raid that has now been thrown into the content vault, so you must purchase it from that little vendor station in the tower. Then we have Xenophage, which is a quest on the moon. Tons of videos out there on how to get it. Incredibly useful, and it is almost a one-phase guaranteed if everyone's using that puppy on the CyberCrypt security. Otherwise, it is very, very good if you need to run some longer range DPS, and there's lots of solar shields and bosses. The Nightfall that comes to mind is that one that's like the one from Destiny 1 with Omnigul, but it's now like Notavia. I say names horribly, so that's just that's one place where it's been proven to be incredibly useful, as well as just in general endgame. Then we have Divinity, which is a must-have by at least one person on every raid fire team for every raid I have done for quite a while. Only exception maybe would be Riven. Divinity is a quest, and it's a raid weapon from the Garden of Salvation raid. You also get this by doing some stuff first on the moon, so there's plenty of guides out there on how to acquire this weapon. Just know to actually get it, you will have to do Garden of Salvation with some puzzles at least once, because that's the last step. Alright, so that's how you get those couple of exotics. Now, why must you have these? Well, for Divinity, it increases the damage output and makes a giant crit spot on any boss for anything for the rest of your fire team to hit, which makes things like slug shotguns, which are really strong right now with the raid boss for Deepstone Crypt, very, very powerful. If you want to be talking about looking at different roles and such like that, we will be getting into that soon for legendary weapons. When we're talking about Xenophage, it is really, really good for burst damage if a sword is not an option. For Lament sword, it melts through everything like butter. And currently, there's some kind of a glitch out there where I guess you don't even need to have ammo for the thing if you just jump while you're charging it. So that makes it incredibly useful as well for anything with like anti-barrier champions, because it also has anti-barrier on the sword. It is a really, if you're not sure what to run, you put on Lament, odds are you'll be fine. And then when we have Anarchy, it does damage over time that allows you to switch to other weapons so you can stack that damage. So like when I do Deepstone Crypt Security, I can consistently get between 1.5 to 2 million damage dealt by myself because of Anarchy. So I'll usually do a Warlock with Lunafaction boots and a well, drop that well down for everybody. Someone's popping off Divinity, I do 2 rounds on the boss, 1 round on the ground, switch to my Heritage Shotgun, which is why we'll be getting to legendary stuff before too long, and put in a bunch of rounds with recombination and repeat that over and over, and that's how I get the high damage. There is an honorable mention for exotics that I want to bring up, and that would be Ariana's Vow. When I was lower in power, especially when I was trying to do those solo, legend, and master lost sectors, I used Ariana's Vow quite a bit. And it's something that you can use an exotic cipher to acquire, and I believe it is attainable in that same place as Anarchy inside of the tower. It's really nifty, it's got long range, it's a hand cannon that shoots special ammo, and it's anti-barrier, and I love it. It works incredibly well. It's just not super useful unless you're in a fire team or you're doing something a little bit lower tier on your own, and is not, as of now at least, a very common weapon to use inside of the raid. The other honorable mention would be Witherhoard. Witherhoard is incredibly useful, and just dropping down a little ball of taking damage, and you can kind of hide around a corner and let ads burn themselves, or you can drop one on a boss and get continuous damage, and I actually use that for some really easy solo master lost sector completions. So Witherhoard is really good. The only reason I don't have it listed as being like the must-haves is because if you're trying to watch this video, I'm betting you're looking for things to have for a raid so you can LFG or anything like that and be more set to get those raid completions or to get that 100k Nightfall, what have you. And Ariana's Vow and Witherhoard aren't necessarily something you 100% must have, but I would be like 95%. Like if you got the other stuff and then you're ready, get Witherhoard and Ariana's Vow. So now we're going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about the PvE legendary weapons. So there is a website called Destiny 2 Checklist or d2checklist.com. So what you want to do is you want to load in to that website. If you're on your phone, you want to click the 3 horizontal lines on the top left of your screen and sign in with your Bungie account. From there, you would click on gear, and you can see with your own gear how they stack up and if you have the roles that are recommended. For legendary gear, it's a little bit difficult to try and talk about it because they're mostly random drops. Obviously, the raid weapons like Heritage, Posterity, Commemoration, things like that, Trusty, are going to only come from the raid. So you have to do the raid for your chance to get it. But a lot of the other weapons are random drop from engrams, completing core activities, doing powerful rewards, doing pinnacle rewards out in the world like 100k Nightfalls. So they're very difficult to try and intentionally farm for, which is why we've spent more time on exotics. So if you want to look up some legendaries, here's just generically some ones that you should have. Heritage Shotgun is fantastic with recombination when we're doing boss damage. The first in, last out is fantastic if you got auto-loading holster with Whirlpool Weapon and Anarchy for doing boss damage on the Deepstone Crypt raid. You have other legendaries like Posterity, which are good inside of Crucible and PvE. There's a whole slew of options like Cold Denial, Dire Promise. The key that comes to these is their roles. I have been noticing with the current meta, many legendary weapons are actually just fine, and to some degree can be some personal preference. However, the roles can either make it really good or meh. So that Destiny 2 checklist is going to be really useful, because when you're in that gear, you just tap on your item and you will see some like lists that are of perks that are like highlighted in gold yellow and some that aren't. The ones that are highlighted in gold yellow are going to be the God tier or S tier perks you want to have on that weapon. And inside this website, if you have a God like a highlighted yellow that with two swords crossing, that means that's a PvP perk. If you've got just the strike symbol, that is a PvE, player versus environment perk. So make sure you pay close attention to that, so you don't accidentally be like, yeah, I got a god roll on it, and you go to a raid and it's actually a PvP one. It just feels bad if that happens. So I would suggest you guys use this website. Other ways for testing out and knowing like ahead of time what works well would be to pay attention to YouTubers like Azatros, Fallout, and Fallout Play. They both do a really good job for the common player of putting out there what kinds of weapons are doing well, with what perks, and sometimes even what mods make them even better. So that's something I suggest you guys go for. I know another legendary weapon that's pretty popular right now is the Trusty. It's a scout rifle, so you have to do the Deepstone Crypt raid to acquire that weapon. And don't worry if you're like, I can't do the whole thing. You could just potentially just do what you can and just do that a couple of times each week. But believe me, this is a really accessible raid. You should be able to do the whole thing. And if you're like, I don't have a team, well, we got a clan for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Use the link for our Discord down below. We'll get you set up in a clan, and we run raids pretty much every week, all the time. The other location for trying to get some good legendaries would just be play quick play, especially with Iron Banner out right now. It's a decent way to build up your power. It's a good way to just get random pinnacle drops, as well as every time you complete a match, you will probably get a slew of legendaries and blues. Blues will be nifty for upgrading things that you currently have to 1250, and legendaries could prove to be useful if there are good rolls. So feel free to take advantage of Iron Banner to try and build up your legendary list. And now beyond that, for legendary weapons, again, really tricky because they're almost all random drops except for the raid weapons, but they're random within the raid. Like, I still don't have an Eyes of Tomorrow, which feels bad, but hey, I'll keep grinding. I'm sure I'll get it eventually. Not at all having flashbacks of Gjallarhorn where I never got it in Destiny 1. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So now let's go ahead and move on to the PvP side of things. So PvP gets a bit trickier with what weapons work the best. So let's, again, start off with just some exotics. So Hawkmoon, really great right now. Thorn, really good, especially if you're on a Warlock with Necrotic Grips. And you get Necrotic Grips by doing the Legend or Master versions of those Lost Sectors, and you eventually will just get those exotic gauntlets. Then we've got other options within the exotic realm, like Suros Regime, Jotun. We have other exotics like Warcliffe Coil, Truth, things like that are going to do pretty well inside of PvP. For legendaries, just like before, that's unfortunately really tricky because they're mostly RNG. It's also worth noting, I'm probably not the most wonderful person to get PvP information from as far as weapons goes, because I'm not particularly better than the average Joe. But for the common folks, this is what I do when trying to figure out if a weapon works well for me. I want to know if it fits into an archetype that's already kind of meta. Since I like hand cannons, I know 140s right now in this season are in a good place. So if it's a 140 hand cannon, I'm like, alright, there's at least one box checked off of my checklist. If you're an auto rifle person, well, 600s and 720s are still pretty good. The next thing you would want to probably do is to look at perk things. Like, do you like sliding a lot? If so, then you probably will love a shotgun that has slide shot on it. Do you like switching back and forth really quick between weapons? So like using a slug shotgun and then switching for a cleanup. If so, you probably want to use quick draw, because that enables you to do that kind of action even better. So those are the things you want to try and consider when you're looking at what kind of rolls you want to have and what weapon and what exotics work well for you. If you're playing a certain game mode, that also impacts the kinds of stuff you want to use. Some people like to have a Bastion in their inventory, so when they get a round or two in and they're like, alright, I know someone's going to probably get a super soon, they switch to that Bastion, so that way they got a loadout to shut down a super, like not super uncommon. So here's some things I suggest you guys try and do beyond what I do, because I still use these, just maybe it's not as much as I should. Number one would be to watch YouTubers on their videos like Azeroth and Fallout plays that are real good at Crucible, because what they tell you about weapons for PvP will probably be on point and something that was going to be very beneficial for you. The other thing is to realize you need to play around with weapons. Like if you're not very familiar with Crucible, you're not going to know. Like maybe you'd be amazing with hand cannons with some practice. Maybe you just need to spend some time getting used to stasis or getting used to auto rifles or getting used to how to handle shotguns. Like just because you struggle with something off the bat does not mean you're going to do really bad with it. For example, the first game or two, I was like, I'm not sure I really like Hawkmoon that much. Like I'm not having a great time with it. And then something kind of clicked. I got used to using it. I don't know. And I now really, really enjoy using Hawkmoon. So a lot of Crucible just comes to just using pieces of gear. And then when you get comfortable to just any role version of like a Dire Promise or a Gnawing Hunger, for example, then you would be like, hey, rolls, like the God roll is going to make this thing even better and up your game. So ways to check for rolls to look for, again, that d2checklist.com, because it tells you what options and perks you want to look for inside of Crucible and inside of PvE. Fantastic option, and that's what I highly suggest you guys do. I really hope this video helped you all out. I'm sorry I didn't have a ton of info for the PvP stuff. That's just not 100% like my expertise. I feel stronger inside of PvE, but also I probably want to list myself more as being like Confessions of an Average Gamer. So this is what I think the average gamer guy goes about doing when approaching things like PvE and PvP. So let me know down below if this was useful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. If you wish to support my channel, subscribing, liking, and commenting are the best ways of doing that. Again, I would love to know if the gameplay was better. I have a capture card. Thank you very much to my mother-in-law who gifted this to me for my birthday. Fantastic. I love it, and I really hope you guys are enjoying this upgrade as much as I am. You can check me out on Twitch as well while I'm trying to figure out some audio stuff. My Twitch stream game is definitely higher up there than it was before, thanks to this capture card. If you want to join the clan, link for the Discord is down below. We have clans for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. If you have information you would like to know about, comment down below and I'll take that into consideration with clan feedback for future videos. And guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week and happy grinding, y'all.